Most entrepreneurs don't fail because they lack motivation or they don't try hard enough. They fail because they don't understand what makes a business tick and what makes a successful business. So it's less about how hard you try and it's more about learning those key factors that really make an impact in sustaining your business long term. Not having a validated offer. If you don't have a validated offer, you are already behind the 8 ball. You don't know if there's real demand. And in some cases, there may be no demand for what you're offering because you've not asked anybody. Again, you're just going based off of, hey, this would be cool if I did this. But you haven't actually brought it to anybody and said, hey, what if I did this? Would you be interested, right? Think of people who are your target audience. If you're setting up fireplaces for people or installing fireplaces or improving fireplaces, then the chances are if you go to somebody who has a fireplace, you should be able to talk to them pretty simply and explain what you want to do. And that person's going to have feedback for you that validates your offer or your offers. So actually having a validated offer that has feedback to it is a massive step in the right direction. And a quick tip, if you're just starting out as a business owner and you're doing something like that, or for example, when I first started out, I actually gave people websites for free. Not because I wanted to just give away my stuff. I would love to be paid, $5,000 per website. But whenever you're just starting out, you need proof of concept as well as social proof. Social proof are things like testimonials or case studies about what you did in the past that helped people. So for me, I gave away free websites when I started out under the context or under the pretext that I could actually use that website and what they say as basically proof going forward. Hey, look what these people said. Look at the websites that I built for them. These people were really happy. Here's a case study from them, or here's a testimonial from them. That not only validated my offer, but it also gave me social proof, which is a massive, massive thing whenever you're just starting a business. The second thing that I see a ton of new businesses do, whether you've had businesses in the past or whatever else it is, people do not understand how lead generation works. And so what they do is they just kind of have this pray and hope good things happen, cross my fingers kind of approach to it. What you want to avoid is, oh yeah, I get business from word of mouth. That makes up almost 100% of what how I get work. You want to avoid that. Word of mouth should be looked at as a bonus because it is massively helpful. And it's one of the main reasons why my company grew to the place that it is today. However, it cannot be relied upon because it isn't consistent. You want to create something that is consistent that hey, if I spend $100 on ads, I'm going to get a client this month that makes me $1,000, right? 10x return on your ad spend and you're making money. That's the idea. You want to boil down how you get leads and how you get customers down to a specific science. It's not spray and pray. It's not luck. It is actually a set process. That set process has to be traffic, right? Traffic is the first key piece to this, right? That can be your organic traffic like this, or that can be paid traffic like ads. And then from there, you start to sell them on whatever it is that you're doing. Also, another thing with inconsistent lead generation that I see a ton is people only start marketing when things slow down. You don't want to do that. You want to market all the time. So whatever it is, like if I'm making consistent videos, I want to make consistent videos all the time. I don't want to make, 5 videos whenever things are slow and just hope that somebody comes in from it, or run ads whenever things are slow. You want to do it all the time. That way you build up your pipeline and you can actually visually see, hey, whenever we're done with this project, we have these 5 projects next, and then we're also in the process of talking to another 10 people for next month, right? You want to actually visually be able to see who you have coming in, who you're working with right now, who's going to work with you in the future, and when they're going to work with you. You want to visualize that so you can get a really good grasp on what you're doing and what your business is looking like for the months to come. The third thing that I see a ton of people do is what I call just emotional decision making, which is basically, and this is something that you see with specifically young entrepreneurs more than older entrepreneurs, even if they're first time entrepreneurs on both sides. And that is whenever they see something work, even if it's just like a little movement, even if they get 1 follower on Instagram, they're like, Instagram's the way of the future. That's what we're doing from now on. It's this emotional, this decision making that isn't really based in anything provable. as opposed to like, hey, I got a sale from this, so maybe we should run more ads, right? That makes sense, Let's test the ads and let's run more ads once we start getting sales. Perfect. That is logical. That's kind of the way that you want to be. But a lot of people see these vanity metrics. Oh, cool. I got 10 subscribers on YouTube this month. We're going to double down and I'm going to spend more time on YouTube. When at the end of the day, you can look at YouTube and say, we've made no money from YouTube, no verifiable money from YouTube. So you want to avoid these emotional decisions that aren't based in analytics and facts. That is one of the biggest things. I know so many people out there who are like, well, hey, you know what? Newspaper ads, that's where it's at because they're cheap and nobody's running them. Well, they're not running them because nobody's actually reading newspapers anymore. You know what I mean? There's a reason for it. So it's just, you want to avoid emotional decision making. You want to actually get into the analytical side of it and actually see what works and why it works. If I can draw a line from me spending money to me making money and all the steps in between it, that's what you want to go with, right? I spend $100, I make $1,000. Perfect. Do that. More of it. Number 4 is cash flow mismanagement. I see this pretty often with new businesses. And my way of doing things is a little bit more conservative than a lot of people, right? I'm not spending money unless I absolutely have to. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to figure out, I'm going to learn about, and I'm going to basically just wrap my mind around everything that I possibly can around one revenue source, right? So whether that's funnels or websites or whatever it is, I want to understand how I can get more work in this field, right? How can I build more websites for people? Is it knocking on doors? Is it going to different businesses? What is it? If it's ads, whatever it is, I pick one thing and I stick with one thing. So for me, for my business, what I do is I run ads. I spend $50 a day in ads right now, and I make about, it's hard to say, I'll give you kind of the rough numbers right now. I've spent, let's say $1,000, because at the time of these sales, that's about what it was. I spent $1,000, and you may not believe this, I made $50,000. I'm not joking you. This is an example. This is actually what happened. And both of them were in the month of October. So when you're watching this video, or last month if you're watching it in November. So that's a 50x return on investment, basically a return on ad spend. So what that means is that I have found a way to take $1,000 and make just a ton of money, 50x it into 50,000. Right? That's where I'm at right now. When you're first starting out, that's not going to be the case, right? If you put in $1 and you make $10, that's a good day. If you put in $1 and you make $5, that's fine. That's typically the bare minimum that you want to shoot for, is about a 5x ROI whenever you're doing anything, marketing wise anyway. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to spend money in all these other places. You want to focus on one method, right? Whether that's content creation, whether that's ads, whether that's SEO, blogging, whatever it is, you want to focus on one thing whenever you're first starting out, right? Get that one thing running smooth so that you can kind of build this cycle of, okay, if I spend this much money, I make this much money. Next month, whatever it is, I spend $1, I make $5. The month after that, I spend $1, I make $10. And you want to keep working on that to create that return on investment. You want to get comfortable in that world of, okay, cool, we're gonna do this offer. This offer works well. We get appointments. We talk to the people on appointments and we sell them into this product or whatever it is, whatever your sales cycle looks like. You want to really define that well. So focus on one thing, save yourself a bunch of money. Don't spend money just because you have to, or just because you want to, rather. Spend money when you have to, and just focus on creating one piece of the puzzle. It'll save you money, it'll save you time, and it'll greatly increase your return on investment. And the last thing that I see, this is something that targets more older people, and that is chasing bad marketing investments or strategies. So what I mean by that is kind of back to the newspaper example, right? Older people really like to do newspaper ads and radio and TV when the reality is that you cannot track data from any of those, right? Unless you specifically have somebody call you and say, hey, I saw you on TV and this is what I want to do, and then they become a sale. Fair enough. Whenever it's digital marketing, stuff online, funnels, ads, things like that, every single step can be tracked. So that's why I push digital marketing like crazy. Also, the return on investment for digital marketing is going to be a lot higher typically because it is less of a normalized form of marketing. In the future, right, we're moving towards digital marketing. We're moving away from traditional marketing. So there may be something there at some point. but for the time being, everything's online and it's for a reason. So don't chase outdated things and don't chase kind of negative things, right? And what I mean by negative whenever it comes to marketing or whenever it comes to growing your business is like quick cash stuff. Like you want to avoid that kind of quick cash. Like, hey, we can give you a 50x ROI on, your service that you're doing and we can provide it in 60 days, that kind of thing. Could it be done? Absolutely. But if somebody's coming in and that is kind of their initial pitch, I would be very skeptical. That doesn't mean you can't do it. That doesn't mean that you have to be like, you're a scammer, none of that. But what you want to do is you want to be very specific whenever you enter into a conversation with somebody, and that's kind of the initial pitch. It should kind of have some red flags going off or like alarm bells in your head where you're like, this seems a little fishy. This seems a little bit out of the blue, out of the normal. I want to approach this carefully. And the other thing in this category that you really want to avoid is doing everything. And we kind of touched on this in just a little bit ago, but you want to avoid going into something like starting your business and being like, okay, here's the strategy. We're going to do ads. We're going to do organic content. We're going to do articles. We're going to work on our SEO. We're going to do this. We're going to do radio ads. We're going to do, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to do everything under the sun. Yes, marketing is great. And there's so many things that you can do with marketing, but you want to focus on one thing first and make sure that one thing is something that people have gotten results with, good results, measurable results with the last 10 years. You know what I mean? So I would avoid radio, I would avoid magazine ads, I would avoid newspaper ads, and I would avoid TV ads. I would do stuff only online. That's how I am. Take it with a grain of salt because I'm definitely biased. I'm 29 years old, so this is all I've known for my whole life. I do not watch TV very much, but you really want to make sure that what you're doing is not an outdated strategy. It's not a bad strategy. It's not an illegal strategy because yes, people do that. And I actually have people who come to me all the time saying, hey, look, this is what we're doing. I'm like, well, yeah, you can't really do fake reviews. It's against TOS and it's really scummy. So if you do these 5 things, I promise you in your first year of business, you will have more success than almost 100% of other businesses, right? 99.9%. Anyway, if you want to know how I made $20,000 in one day, click the video on screen. Peace.